Hola, hola, hola. I am Samuel Gillespie, and
I am Burke Bankston.
we're here with the Cavalier Cast, and today's segment is teaching a different point of view. A little bit about myself, since some of you might know, some of you might not. I am the junior class SCA president. I run track. I run the 500, and this is an indoor. I run the 500 and the 300, and in outdoor I run the 400 and the 200. Let's see. What is interesting about myself?
Everything.
Oh, that's nice. I like to longboard. That's a hobby of mine until I broke my collarbone, but it's still fun.
Yep.
I like to snowboard. I love water, like the outdoors and the water you drink. School is very fun and a passion of mine, not gonna lie. And I don't know. There's some other things, I guess, but that's about it.
Yep.
Very brief.
Yes. I am Burke Bankston. I am the junior class SCA vice president. I attend Central Virginia Governor's School.
Smarty.
I play tennis here at JF, and something about me.
You got this.
I like watching sports, and I really enjoy following them. And I am also a member of the Forensics and Debate team from freshman year up until now. Competed in Public Forum and Oral and Terp. Yeah.
And speaking of forensics, drum roll, we have our first teacher appearance, Mr. Brian Munson.
Hello, hello.
Woohoo.
Hello.
Mr. Munson, if you just want to go over quickly about yourself.
Yeah, well, I was just listening to what you said, and it got me actually thinking about high school. So, when I was in high school, I was president of the Spanish club. I was on yearbook. I was in drama. I swam. I was on the swim team, but not my school didn't have a swim team. And I think I was part of a guitar group because I play guitar. So I mean,
Wow.
I was involved in a bunch of stuff because honestly, I wasn't like the best student, but I sure liked being in clubs. So I can relate to that. Now I'm a teacher. I teach AP classes, AP English, AP Seminar, AP Research here at JF, and I've been teaching for. I just counted 33 years, man.
Wow.
I know it doesn't
Oh
feel
my
like
goodness,
that.
yeah, I know.
33
I
years.
should be pulling out dentures here, but no.
And you have not only taught in the U.S.
No, you have not.
Yeah. I've been around the world. We shortly after my son was starting school, we headed overseas. And
Okay.
so I've taught in. We started in Korea, in South Korea, in a town called Daejeon. And then we moved on to Saudi Arabia, which was kind of a short stop in Riyadh, only there for 2 years, and then moved on to Shanghai, China. And then we were heading home, but my wife, she had a admin degree, and so they needed her to stay on at the school we were at in China, but we'd already kind of changed everything, so they didn't have a position for me, so I came on back thinking I would just keep our house, which was in Roanoke at that time, but and maybe sub or something. It was hard to get a job that late. And then something opened up for me in Denmark. So, and my family originally immigrated from Denmark, so it was kind of returning to roots that I never knew I had. So it's kind of cool.
So did you did you have connections to these places before?
No. What happens is that you just apply to different kind of overseas schools and that kind of thing. And at least for the the Saudi Arabia one, we went to a job fair, and it was wild.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Mm-hmm.
But I always came back and said overseas teaching, overseas education is probably education's best kept secret.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Because man, the schools are like America, okay?
Yeah.
They're the same. We compete in the same sports. We do the same kind of thing.
Right.
except maybe on steroids, like because the schools in China are amazing.
That's what I've
the
heard.
Facilities
I mean,
and things,
like, I've heard it's pretty hardcore academically.
It is, but that's what the students are paying to be there. So you just didn't. I was shocked. You didn't get discipline issues. There weren't fights breaking out. No, there weren't fights breaking out. So the biggest issue we had, which is so strange because it's not an issue that we have here at all, is trying to keep kids in English.
Right.
Because it's an English-speaking school, and often they would use their language to try to, get answers on tests. So they'd walk in and just say, they'd walk in and in Korean they'd say, "I didn't study last night. Who's got the answers?" And somebody was just going to raise their hand, and I'd say, "In English," but they already said it, and somebody already was going to give them answers. So it was really weird. So I had to learn a little bit of language just so I could catch that. Yeah.
Would you how would you compare it differently to like a private school here, like in
I don't know.
the U.S.?
I went to a private school for high school. It was a Jesuit school, a Catholic school. I think the rigor is the same. Private schools have a more challenging thing to them, and the schools overseas, they expected that.
Okay.
So for me, it was a super amount of grading.
Yeah.
Now, not Denmark. Denmark's incredibly laid back. Europe's incredibly laid back, and it's just a whole different feel.
And it's
I mean in rules on the campus too.
Okay.
So that was more like, there were discipline things there, but the rules are so lax that it wasn't like
more laid back than a public school here.
Much more laid back, much more. And the fact that we didn't have a lunchroom meant that you went to restaurants around. So you had an hour off, and they'd catch the bus and go on down somewhere. And there wasn't a gym because it was just they were building a school. So we were in a really old building. And to go to gym, you'd have to catch the bus and go like 3 stops down, and they'd have it at like our equivalent to a YMCA or something like that. It was wild.
That is very interesting.
And I just remember the first day walking with the principal just around the neighborhood, and I saw some of the students, and they were sitting on the stoop of a apartment, and they were smoking. So I thought, oh, principal's coming by. They're going to get. And she goes, "Hey guys, listen, we've had some complaints about the cigarette butts here, so make sure you put them out elsewhere." And I'm like, and I'm like walking by, and I said, "That was weird." And she goes, "Why?" And I said, we would have just gotten after him for smoking. And she goes, "Well, everybody smokes, so what's the point?" And I just thought, there's something about that I just like.
In America,
letting people be people, and what's the point of that? Now, it's an awful thing to say because my administrator's not going to like that. But,
No, yeah. I know what you like, the discipline.
But Europe does smoke more than America does. So,
yes.
So what was your, what was your driving motion to not stay and teach in America versus going out and seeing what's out there?
Well, I don't think anything drove me away.
Pulled you?
Well, maybe because when I married, I switched careers. I was a journalist before.
Okay.
And when I married, I was already kind of not seeing journalism as being the future. And I married a school teacher, and I thought, that would be cool. She didn't push me. It's just something we did. And she had grown up, in her family, my wife's side of the family, her dad was with the UN. So she traveled all around the world, and she lived in different places, many more places than I have even visited now. And she said, "Hey, why don't we teach overseas?" And I thought, why not? Our kids were younger.
Right.
Sometimes when they're older, it's a little hard to make that kind of break.
Yeah.
And so we just put in an application thinking it would be about a year, and it was really a few months.
So it was kind of just like, let's go for it.
Great demand,
Yeah.
So it's very cool. I don't regret the decision at all, and I know my kids don't because every year.
I was about to ask that. How did they,
Every year when we would decide whether we were going to sign the contract again, we would ask the kids, "Do you want to stay?" And then it was like, "Yeah." And so now what I've got is 3 kids. I got 2 daughters and a son, who probably will find themselves overseas at some point because when that bug gets in you, it's hard. And, and it was hard to come back because I was used to that. I think the thing that drew me back though was that my daughters were married, and and there was grandbabies coming. So I thought,
Family.
I
Yeah,
don't want to be
right.
away when there's grandbabies. Gosh, being a grandpa, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But I am now. So.
And do they live like close to here?
My oldest lives in Richmond, and yes,
Okay.
my middle child
So not too far.
lives here in town. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then your son works
Nathan.
Right here.
Right here.
He just got married, so no kids
That's
yet.
awesome.
And
They
a
got
puppy.
a puppy.
Yeah, I remember that.
That puppy's awesome.
Yep.
Butterscotch. He's great.
Yep.
And I have a couple questions for you.
All right.
All right. So we know that you've been around to a lot of different countries. Which one was your favorite place to live and why?
Yeah, I like Shanghai, and I could probably answer this for any place, but Shanghai had the best people.
Okay.
Students have always been, no matter where I was, students were great. Here, when I taught in the States too, great. But the people that I worked with were people that I spent time with, were friends with, and really deep connections.
Mm-hmm.
That's what did it. And Shanghai, that's a pretty cool city. It
Yeah.
really is. And a lot of opportunities. So if you travel, for example, I coached forensics there as well. But the teams that we competed with were in Indonesia
Yeah.
and in Thailand. And so you didn't take the bus across town, like you took a plane
Yeah.
to another
You were
country.
competing.
Yeah, and
against
so
different countries.
visiting, like I loved going to Hong Kong. Hong Kong I loved. It's almost like Asia and New York.
Yeah, that's what I've seen pictures, and
it's
it looks.
great.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's all English. They speak
Yeah.
all English there. And I was very close and never got, it's my one regret, very close to Australia, which has always been like
Mm-hmm.
my place I want to go
Oh, yeah.
someday. Never got down there. Like we were planning a trip, but we never got down that far. So.
Really cool animals and stuff over there. I know that. I watch a lot of videos of like the wildlife and stuff over there.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think like the cultures and stuff over there, like was it hard to kind of not fit in, but like adjust to the different cultures? And did you know like the language at all?
No. Korea at first, I didn't know the language at all. And it's an American school, so of course you're around people who can speak the language. And a lot of the restaurants and things that are around the school will get students from the school to translate their menus, so you could get by without knowing English. It's best if you would, not knowing Korean.
Yeah.
It's best if you could learn the language. And there
Right.
was, I called it taxi English, or taxi Korean, where I could say, left, right,
Yeah.
stop, here, that kind of thing.
Simple.
But I was kind of caught on that because I was there for like 7 years, and I remember right before I was going to leave, I was taking a taxi, and the guy asked me something, because I was doing directions, and I said, sorry, I don't know. And then in English, he switched and said, how long have you been here? And I said, 7 years. He goes, seriously, and you don't know the language? And I thought, it really is a bad
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
I should have learned the language.
So are you able to like understand at all?
No, not really. Now my kids can,
They can.
because it's something about language acquisition when you're younger is different.
Right.
You just pick it up because you
Yeah.
live it.
Yeah. All right. We have about 2 more for you. Why the subject English and why teaching?
Yeah, well, originally, aside from what I went to college for, which was, I thought I was
Journalism.
going to be a dentist. No, I thought I was
Right.
gonna
Oh,
be a
really?
dentist. And I realized that I wasn't, as much as I loved the sciences, I wasn't good at it. I mean,
Okay.
even in high school,
Yeah.
I was like a C student, but I loved it. Thought it was fascinating. I was part of the pre-med club. I didn't mention that one. I was part of that one too. But when I got to college and realized how tough it is, I thought, I'm not going to do this. And so then I thought, well, I'll do the thing that always came easy, that I never had to study for. I never had to study for English tests. I don't have a concept, and this is hard when I'm teaching too, I don't have a concept of how you study if you've read the novel.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you've read the novel, to me, you should be able to write about it. And yet people say, no, I had to go back and study all this. And I'm thinking, see, I don't have a concept of that. And then I have a hard time teaching that to that. Anyway, I pursued that. And but I went into journalism first, and that's why it was easy to flow into English.
Yeah.
Because English was my minor in college.
Okay. So you had some work with
Because
it.
I just wanted to take those courses. Like, I love reading. I love dissecting literature, and I love talking about it. And And to me, I graduated, if you will, into a career that really is satisfying.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, something that I look forward to every day. I just had a conversation today in the hall with Miss Lightfoot, and we were talking about the fact that I get to determine what I want to do each year.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think it's Miss Ferris, and she was saying, yeah, I have to do the same thing because it's always the same thing. I said, see, not with me. Like, I can pick a different novel, and I do because I don't want to do the same thing every year. So I can still get everything across, but it doesn't have to be that
different
novel.
manner.
And I can try something new I've never done before.
Exactly.
That's obviously moving overseas and stuff like that. I love change, so I like to keep it
Getting
real.
a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me. In fact, it stimulates me to think, can I do this?
Yeah.
Let's
And it
try
creates
this.
experience
It
too.
does. It's fun. It's fun.
All right. And then for our last one, we have, do you feel accomplished of what you've done with your life? This is deep.
Going
It is
philosophical
deep,
here.
Yeah.
What have I done with my life? You know, let's start reflecting back. Yeah, but I think if we're going to be philosophical, I think that what we do with our lives, like our vocations and our jobs, don't define us. You know, like I don't think at the end of my life that I'll be remembered as a teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
And they won't be the accomplishments that I would credit.
Yep.
I think what I'm doing now with my grandkids, with my own children, that's the legacy.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of father, what kind of grandpa can I be?
And I mean, like, I'm not going to remember you as a teacher. I'm going to
Right.
remember you as a mentor and a guide.
Right.
Well, and that's the way I remember my teachers, you know, and that has a lot to do with why I went into teaching too. I think every teacher has like a teacher that they had that made a difference.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I have not heard before, but I had 4. And that's wild. I mean, it's rare for people to have, sometimes just have one that made a difference, but I had 4, and I kind of bounce off between those 4 in my instructions. Sometimes I'm Dr. Okay, what was her name? Gosh, anyway. One of the professors. Sometimes I'm Father Barfield, who was my high school English teacher. Sometimes I'm the music teacher. Yeah. And he was also a Spanish teacher. So you know,
you take inspiration from.
I do, and I pull some of their stunts. You know.
Yeah.
And I pull them and see how they work on the students, and thinking, yeah, they were just as good for me, so they just work for them.
And I think that's awesome. Like
It's
especially with us.
Right.
Like seeing, I feel like I can see some of it come off in like AP Lang and even in Learning Coach. It's just how you're able to connect with students.
Yep.
Like that's a hard thing for teachers to do. I feel like, and I feel like
I had some
you can
good
do
ones.
that.
I had some good ones to pattern after.
Yeah.
They were, like you said, they were good people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd stop in, at least in high school, my teachers had offices. I'd stop in their office just to chat. It wasn't about class.
I mean,
you
like
know?
Burke texted me the other day. He was
oh
like,
my gosh, Burke hangs around and we just talk
Like
much too late.
I think it was last Monday we just sat in your room and talked for maybe an hour and a half.
We didn't cover any friends.
No, we didn't. That was the whole purpose of me walking in there, and then we ended up just talking.
But hey, I mean, like, it creates a foundation with your students and in a very positive way.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
it's good on my end too.
Yeah.
You know, I get a lot out of those conversations too.
Yep. All right. I think we are coming to the end of this podcast.
Yes.
But thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
We do have another teacher lined up for, it might be next week or the week after, but we're not going to tell you who that is yet. You'll be able to find out once we post that.
It all comes down to their schedule.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With this Learning Coach during lunch, I mean, it's hard to schedule, but we're trying. We're going to get this out there for you guys, and hopefully after we do the next one, we can send out another form, and you guys can pick again and ask questions. But right now, I think that's it. Again, thank you for everyone that has joined and has listened. And thank you, Mr. Munson, for
Thank you, Mr. Munson.
taking
great.
time out of your lunch and
We greatly
coming and talking
appreciate
with us. Yeah.
Appreciate it, guys.
Anything
Good luck.
you need to say?
Yeah, no, I think that was good.
All right. Signing off, Samuel Gillespie.
Burke Bankston. See you next time.